Welcome back to Film Fanatics, where we talk about the movies that have us obsessed, excited, and inspired. Actually, today, where we talk about the TV shows that have us obsessed, inspired, and excited.
Plot
Alan.
twist. And I'm Gaul. This week, we're bringing back our TV Fanatics mode way earlier in the season than before. TV is more exciting than ever this year. Last time we had our Emmy predictions, and so that sort of year of TV is closed. And this fall is just another exciting year for TV fans already. So it's been a while because the Emmys happened when we were on hiatus, but I thought it would be fun to just see how much we got right and how happy we were with the winners. So best drama series and comedy series, I think we're both very happy with who won there. It was Succession and Ted Lasso.
I think those are both our favorites in those categories. I don't know if we
100%.
predicted it right, but they were definitely our favorites.
I think I kind of expected both of these, and I'm all for it.
I think I predicted Ozark because it was the last season.
Yeah, Ozark is good too, but I think I'm a little bit more obsessed with Succession now.
Yeah. So for lead actor, we definitely got that wrong. Lee Jung-jae won for Squid Game. I think we're both very not pleased with that.
I think later on I started to think it was likely going to be him, but I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Jeremy Strong or Brian Cox were in the most recent season of Succession.
Yep.
Like, maybe that's also just because Squid Game wore out on me a little over time and Succession didn't. So I think that also had a big impact on me.
No, for sure. Lead actress, I am very happy with this result. My Girl Zendaya became probably the youngest actor ever to win 2 Emmys in a row. And good for her. She deserves it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Laura Linney in the last season of Ozark was insane. But because it's Zendaya who beat her and not someone else, I understand that. There's that one episode that everyone loves in season 2 that someone played the clip of and on Instagram and said, "Oh, congrats to Zendaya," when she's yelling at Hunter Schafer, and I was like, okay, yeah, she's amazing.
She's so good, man.
She's
I am
insane.
so excited to watch this girl go up to collect the 2026 Academy Award for Best Actress.
For what movie?
I don't know yet. But
the Euphoria feature film special.
It will happen. Trust me. It has to happen. She's honestly one of the most talented actors we've seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I'm done fangirling. Quinta Brunson won for writing in a comedy series. Julia Garner won for Ozark as a supporting actress.
Her 3rd time doing it.
Which is kind of insane. Maybe give it to someone else.
But in the 4th season, I didn't think she was going to win, but there's one scene in which I think she kills all the competition.
I haven't seen it, to be fair.
Halfway through the 4th season. I think she's absolutely incredible in this, but there were some other good people in the running. Sydney Sweeney was great in Euphoria.
Lead actress in a comedy series, Jean Smart from Hacks. And we'll get into Hacks a little bit later in the show.
That's where we'll leave it for now.
I'm very happy Amanda Seyfried got the limited or anthology lead actress.
I think we both
she was
expected that.
Fucking good in this show.
I didn't see it, but I think we both predicted it, and I also predicted Michael Keaton would get his due for Dope Sick.
So happy for him. I just watched Spotlight again this weekend.
Spotlight was good.
And he's so good. Give him whatever he wants. I'm very happy Matthew McFadden won for supporting actor.
I think that was the easiest one to guess, and I'm happy for him.
Right.
He's insane in this show.
Jennifer Coolidge won. I still have to get on that White Lotus train.
I've seen parts of it here and there.
I'm just kind of... It rubs me the wrong way that it has a season 2 and they won a bunch of things for limited series. That really bugs me.
Something similar happened with Fargo, where it's a new contained story every season, but it's still put it in limited series 3 times.
Jennifer Coolidge is in season 2, so what the fuck?
That is pretty weird. But Aubrey Plaza's in it, so that's a plus.
Yeah. Our favorite boy, Brad Goldstein, won again for Ted Lasso.
I'm listening to his podcast right now. It's called Films to Be Buried With.
Pretty good podcast.
And Jason Sudeikis won again.
Jason Sudeikis won
Hell
again.
yeah.
Last Week Tonight won again for the 10,000th year in a row.
Look, I get that people like John Oliver, but can you give it to someone else? Like,
yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel is cool.
I think Stephen Colbert deserves one.
Oh, no,
honestly.
Stephen Colbert's the best, actually.
I love him so much. Yeah.
Yeah, what makes John Oliver by default like so much better than everyone else? Like, he's
don't
good,
know.
but
I
like he
honestly
deserves
don't
it one time, not
maybe 2
8.
because he's so good, but like not 8.
Yeah, sure. But it's literally like 8 in a row now.
The White Lotus again rubs me the wrong way that won. Limited series. What else?
It's odd.
Chip and Dale won television movie, which is crazy.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and I
And
think,
Lizzo won an Emmy.
yeah, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think
Nice.
we covered.
So we did solid, I
I
guess.
think this is the fastest we ever ran through awards.
Yeah.
Are you ready to move on?
Yeah. So what segment are we bringing back today?
We're bringing back TV Gems. TV Gems is a segment we had last year where we talked about these aren't exactly like things that nobody's talking about, to be fair, but like basically we bring 2 shows that we know the other one isn't watching, and we try to convince the other one to watch. That's basically it.
I think last year when we did it, it was shows that that like a lot less people had seen.
Yeah.
To be fair, my pick was Ted Lasso back then, and now it's the biggest comedy show in the world.
And I've watched it. I've watched it after Gal suggested it in that show, and it's one of my favorite comedies of all time.
And I still hadn't watched whatever Alan suggested that episode.
I don't remember what I suggested.
I think it was The Politician or something.
Oh, it's so good. You should watch it.
Okay.
So let's start with you, Gal, with your dark horse, and then we'll go to like the current one. Okay?
Okay, yeah. So this is one that I finished already a little bit ago, and it is an Emmy winner like we talked about earlier, and I originally had no plans of watching it, but on my flight back from my trip, it was a long flight, and I was having trouble deciding what to watch, and I saw the person next to me watching it, and so I put on an episode of Hacks, and I ended up watching 4. And it's funny as hell. It's so good. And I think it might be almost on the level of Ted Lasso and Only Murders on the Building.
Wow.
At least just from a writing perspective. Like, enjoyment, the other 2 are more of my thing. But from a writing perspective, the other 2, like, it definitely deserves to be nominated alongside them. For its first season, it actually won both the writing and directing for comedy Emmys. And for both seasons, Jean Smart got the Best Actress award and pretty much every other awards ceremony.
Nice.
So if you've never heard of Hacks, the plot is there's this stand-up comedian who's in her 70s, and her name's Deborah Vance, and she's kind of becoming washed up because her her regular venue in Vegas is sort of trying to get her to like have the next couple performances be her last, and she's kind of like not really as relevant anymore, even though like back in the 80s and 70s and whatever, like she was like a lot bigger. Like she was a bit of a, I don't know, like a Steve Martin type, like a funny person that everyone really knew. And so she's trying to like get a change in her career. So she hires this this like younger writer named Ava, who's recently been sort of canceled for some dumb joke on Twitter like a couple months back. And so they're both really desperate for each other.
Oh, it's a modern take. I thought it took place in the 70s or 80s.
Oh no, it takes place like 2022.
Oh, nice.
And so yeah, they both really desperately need each other, even though Jean Smart's character is treating the younger character like shit. Because she's so like vain, and she wants everything a certain way because, you know, she's a wealthy old white woman, and
I know those.
And she's like really this diva, and she's really having trouble coming to terms with her fame. And so And so Hannah Einbinder's character, Ava, brings like more of a Gen Z perspective to everything. And let me just say, Hannah Einbinder has never been in anything that much. And she is fantastic here. Like she brings such a raunchy perspective to comedy. And she's so like honest and outrageous. And every time she's on screen, you just really laugh and enjoy her character. All the characters are really interesting to see their world, and there's a couple of like supporting actors who are a little more famous, like Christopher McDonald, who was the main villain in Happy Gilmore, or Caitlin Olsen plays Gene Smart's daughter, and she's really famous from like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which never watched, but it has this following. So yeah,
My cousin loves that show. He hates me for not watching.
I'm not gonna watch a show that's 15 seasons in right now.
It's so long.
So yeah, I mean, Hacks is just like, it's a highlight because it's like, it's a very female-led show, and I think those audiences are really going to grasp onto it. But it's very sort of honest and borderline satirical about the comedy and television industry today. And there's always sort of either references to what's going on, or in the way that they have to like figure out how to best like market their comedy. And in addition to that, all the characters play off each other really well. And they all start off really shitty people, and that's funny to watch.
Great. Yeah, this has been on my list for so long at this point.
It was not on my list until I watched it on the plane.
This has been on my HBO Max list for honest to God 6 months, and I still haven't watched it. So don't worry, I'll get to it for sure. Maybe next year I will tell you that I did, just with that, like with Ted Lasso, but it does sound really good.
It's an easy watch because it's first season's 10 episodes, second season's 8 episodes, and they're half an hour each.
Okay. Mine is not that much of an easy watch. So, the one I chose was a little show called The Crown. The Crown is coming back to Netflix in like less than a month for season 5. And that paired with the existence of Matt Smith with the demise of the Queen have all made me want to go back and watch it, because I've only ever watched like a couple of episodes back in the day, and it has been recommended by our film teacher. So this is something that I kept on my list ever since he recommended it to us. And I will say it is a bit of a slow burn, and it does take a little bit, and it does take a little bit of a type of like if you don't like this kind of stuff, like this very British highbrow drama, you won't like it. There's no going around it. But it's so funny sometimes, and it's so kind of like dark, but not
funny?
really. It's so funny sometimes, but I think it's like the dry British humor. Like, I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but sometimes like the characters say some shit, and like they're being like that serious, and you're just go like what? So it's kind of like that, and like they're so out of touch with reality, and the performances in this show are like on a complete other level. Matt Smith, Claire Foy, Olivia Colman. Let's see. There's so many people in this show, and there's a kind of like a gimmick in The Crown that every 2 seasons the whole cast changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every 2 seasons, basically they grow older, right? So it starts with Matt Smith and oh fuck, what's her name? And Claire Foy. And then they become Olivia Colman and
Tobias Menzies.
Tobias Menzies, thank you. And Tobias Menzies. And they're about to become now in season 5 Jonathan Pryce and what's her name?
Imelda Staunton.
Thank you, Imelda Staunton. This is a hard show to keep track of cast, okay? There's so many people in this show. Dominic West, is gonna play Prince Charles this year,
Oh, damn.
and Elizabeth Debicki is gonna play Princess Diana.
I love her. So
They're
that's
both
interesting.
fantastic. And Vanessa Kirby and Helena Bonham Carter played Princess Margaret at different ages. They were both fantastic for completely different reasons.
Damn.
Helena Bonham Carter is so sassy, so funny, yet so sad and depressed, and it's so amazing. Vanessa Kirby is more like depressed most of the time because the royal family is so horrible to her. And anyway, like, this show is really good. If you like acting, cinematography, direction, British snark, I guess, you will love this show. It's not for everyone, I'll give you that. But if you give it a shot and if you watch the whole thing, I actually ended up binging it in like 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Once I got it going, like once I went through the first like 4 or 5 episodes that I was like slugging, after that, I just ran through them in like 2 weeks. So,
and I hear the Prime Minister actors were incredible.
The Prime Minister actors are fucking sensational.
Like John Lithgow and Gillian Anderson.
John Lithgow, which is the only actor in the whole show that doesn't age with the time jump. He's still John Lithgow to 2 different Queen Elizabeths.
And both the Prime Ministers are American actors.
Yes, and the other one fantastically played by
Gillian Anderson.
Thank you, Gillian Anderson.
I've heard she's terrific in it.
She deserves an Emmy. I don't know if she won it. I think she
did.
won it. Yeah. So there you go. She deserved it, and she got it.
So fun fact that The Crown was the first drama show last year at the Emmys that won every single drama category, all 7 in history.
For season 4, I'm assuming. Fucking well deserved. At that point, I was complaining my ass off because I didn't watch it. But now that I've watched it, it is well deserved. It is so good. Season 4, I think it's the best one.
That's what I've heard. So I've always been kind of apprehensive to get into this show, just because the royal family stuff has never really been my thing. And when it comes to shows, like I don't know if 50 hours is like my
it's hard. It's not easy.
My groove. Like, I'm sure that once I got into the groove the way you did, I'd be like, oh shit, this is amazing. But you also kind of warned me that you have to get into it first. And I feel like that part would just be kind of boring to me.
It's
and
hard.
That's a shame that like it's on me for sure. But it's a shame because like all these actors I'm a huge fan of, especially Olivia Colman or Vanessa Kirby, Claire Foy, Elizabeth Debicki.
Yeah.
Like, these are really great actors. So I'm sure it's terrific. And this is like one of the most expensive shows in history, I think. And it really looks like they've gone through their way to create this epic of an entire woman's life. I mean, I guess Rip the Queen.
Her whole family's life.
Yeah.
Like, you watch, like, I've watched on this show Prince Charles be born. And in season 5, he's supposed to be like 50. And like you go through, there's probably been like 4 or 5 different actors that played him like when he was a kid. And when he was an adult, he was played by
Josh O'Connor.
Josh O'Connor, thank you. How the fuck
also
do you know that
and
I don't?
Because I know he won the Emmy.
And he was played fantastically by Josh O'Connor. And yeah. And now he's going to be played by Dominic West, which is pretty cool.
So basically, it should be called The Charles Show instead of The Truman Show, because you see him born and then everything.
I mean, if it was going to be called anything else, it would be The Elizabeth Show, because, like, you don't really see him that much when he's a baby.
Yeah.
And, like, the whole first season, like, I think he's only born in, like, the middle of the first season or something like that.
Yeah, so I guess the main reason I've been kind of apprehensive, and I believe everything you say that it's amazing, but the only reason it might take a while for me to check it out.
It took me 6 tries to get it.
Really?
Yeah.
So yeah, I predict it'll take me a while to get into The Crown too, especially also because I've seen The Queen with Helen Mirren or The Iron Lady with Meryl Streep, or most recently Spencer with Kristen Stewart, which I thought was great.
That's my thing. I haven't seen any of those, so it was easier for me to get into this because of that. I didn't know anything.
Okay, yeah. So, like The Queen, for example, I don't think they've gotten into this yet, but it's mostly about Elizabeth and the royal family's response to Diana's passing, or The Iron Lady is actually about her whole life.
I think with Diana, this is gonna be the focus of if they have a season 6 or the latter half of.
They
season
said it's
5.
ending with season 6.
So the fallout I think is gonna be on season 6. I have a feeling season 5 is gonna end with her dying.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think just like for me, when it comes to the royal family drama, that was just never my cup of tea. So seeing like Spencer or the Queen was kind of like enough for me. But interestingly enough, Peter Morgan, who wrote The Queen, also created The Crown. So he's Queen Elizabeth's biggest fan, I guess.
I don't know. She might have something to say about that because a lot of shit comes out in the show.
No, I'm kidding. Also, he's like very critical of her in The Queen also. So.
Oh, great. Because like, I like that they don't shy away from this shit because they are horrible people. Let's face it.
Because in the movie, it's all about the Prime Minister Tony Blair telling her that she's stubborn.
Great. So also, I want to shout out Charles Dance. He plays Lord Mountbatten, which is low-key one of the best roles in both.
What's like his position?
He's Matt Smith's uncle.
Okay.
So he's like the lord of some shit. So he's played by my man Charles Dance, and before that he was played by, this you won't know, I don't think, by Greg Wise, and he was played really well by Greg Wise.
I think anything Charles Dance touches just turns to gold, though. Because he's such a good character actor.
You've definitely seen Greg Wise. He's also a character actor.
Let me search him
He's
up.
been in a bunch of shit.
Greg Wise. Oh, he looks... Oh, he's old also.
Yeah.
56. Oh, he was in Sense and Sensibility. Holy shit. He's married
great.
Emma Thompson. He's there. This is his wife. She's his wife. That's cool.
He is so good in the first 2 seasons, and then after the time jump, he becomes Charles Dance. And I was so scared, like, how are they gonna get someone better than him? Because he was actually my favorite in the first 2 seasons, which is weird because they had like Matt Smith, Claire Foy, but he was actually my favorite. Probably because his character is the least hateable one.
Then Charles Dance got to meet a certain movie lover last month.
Oh yeah.
I said a little hello to him when he was in the crowd of a movie that I watched.
And Charles Dance took the baton, and he was great in it. He was one of my favorite actors from Game of Thrones. He played my man Lannister. Tywin? I think he played Tywin.
I haven't even watched it, and I know that because basically when I was in the Toronto Film Festival, he was in an audience of a movie I went to. And there were a bunch of people going up to him saying, "You're my favorite Lannister."
Yes, I was right.
So
Tywin Lannister.
Because I said that.
I didn't hear it.
Oh. Okay. So that's a great segue, Alan. What are you watching right now?
Right now, I'm watching what's probably going to be my favorite show of the year because I'm such a fucking Game of Thrones head. And it is The House of the Dragon. And I can't stop talking about this show. And I can't stop watching this show. And my life is gonna end when this show ends in like 2 weeks, and I hate that. It's House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is a goddamn masterpiece of a show that is streaming on HBO and HBO Max right now. It is the prequel series to the aforementioned Game of Thrones, and instead of centering on the Starks like the original Game of Thrones, it centers or on the Lannisters. It centers exclusively on the Targaryens, and it takes place about 200 years before Game of Thrones, and it's basically the story of how the Targaryens got into a civil war between themselves. Because when you start Game of Thrones, there's basically no Targaryens left. There's like 2, but people don't know. People think they're all dead, right? When Game of Thrones starts. So this is the story of what the fuck happened that the most powerful family, the family that like they were kings and queens for like decades, how the hell did they become basically nothing? That's the log line.
So is it like Game of Thrones meets The Crown?
It is kind of like Game of Thrones meets The Crown, especially because of my main man, Matt Smith. He's I don't know if he's the main character or like the main supporting character. I don't know how to describe it. But he is in the whole show, which is not the case for most actors in this show, because this show has so many fucking time jumps. Like, if you got confused about the Crown's time jumps and actor names, I'm not even gonna try here, because in one season we had at least 2 different actors for most characters.
Oh.
For like half the season it was one, and half the season other, and like the kid characters, like we've had like 3 or 4 actors for the kids characters, and now they're like adults. So like, it is a bit like weird to keep track. So I'll give you a couple of shout outs. Matt Smith, again, he was in the whole show. I guess he doesn't age. Even though it's been like 30 years since episode 1 at this point, or maybe like 20 years. So Matt Smith as Prince Daemon Targaryen, aka the most badass motherfucker in the room. He is a horrible person technically, but I do still love him, and I do still root for him, even though he killed so many people. And so he's my MVP for sure. Rhys Ifans, fantastic.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that show.
He also has lasted all the time jumps, so he's been there the whole show. I
literally only know him from the Lizard in the Spider-Man movies, and then he played Rasputin.
He's so good, man.
Kingsman.
He's so fucking good in this show. He plays Sir Otto Hightower. He's the king's hand in the beginning of the show. Paddy Considine. Everyone's saying, and I agree, give this motherfucker an Emmy, like right now. Like right now. Just, there won't be a Best Actor category next year. Just give it to Paddy Considine. He plays King Viserys, and in the beginning I thought, oh my god, he's gonna be like this drunk fat king like we had in Game of Thrones with Baratheon, which was the first king in Game of Thrones. And I was like, oh, it's gonna be the same shit. This man goes through so much shit. But like by the end, he's basically a White Walker. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you know the reference. He's basically a zombie by the end of it, and like, man, he just acts his heart out week in and week out, where like his life keeps falling apart every episode. People keep doing stupid shit around him.
I actually really like him as like a character actor who was lesser known. There was this movie that I actually watched and we talked about on the podcast because of you, The Death of Stalin, which he
he's
was
in.
That. Yeah, I can't remember. Like, he's been in a lot on the side. Wait, one sec. I do want to, because I'm for sure he's been in something bigger. Oh shit, he was in Hot Fuzz. How do I not remember that?
Because you don't remember him, and that's insane. And he is the best actor on this show.
So now he's really getting the spotlight.
Which is crazy, because everyone was talking about Matt Smith in the beginning. And after like 2 or 3 episodes, people were like, wait, what? Paddy Considine. Nothing against Matt Smith. He's probably the second best here. But Paddy is just giving a masterclass.
What I do know, having not gotten into this universe yet, let me just say, by the time I started watching TV shows, Game of Thrones was already like 7 seasons in. So I just never got into it. But I think after all these last couple of weeks, you telling me about House of the Dragon, I think I'll start with this and then get into Game of Thrones finally.
You will want to after you watch this.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is George R.R. Martin has said that Paddy Considine's character is better than the way he wrote it.
Yeah. He said that if he could rewrite the book, he would rewrite it like Paddy Considine, which is probably the best like compliment you could get.
Yeah.
George R. R. Martin is an exec here. He's an executive producer. He wasn't one in Game of Thrones.
Okay.
So some of those iffy decisions by the end did not come from him.
So for people who had concerns after the end of Game of Thrones,
Like
what should
me.
win them back here?
Like me, like I've talked on the show that I was like, why do we need this? Game of Thrones was like whack.
So what won you back here?
I was won back in the first half an hour of the first episode. Because the writing in the show is fantastic, like Game of Thrones was. The direction of the show is fantastic. The cinematography is fantastic. The actors are fantastic. It's on a whole other level. Like, honestly. Like, it reminds me of the feeling I had the first season watching Game of Thrones. Of something just being just so fucking good that you can't keep your eyes out of it. And you have to pay attention to everything. Because you can't miss a single detail. Otherwise, you're fucked. Because you're not going to understand the whole season. Because of one line you misinterpreted. So
I think
it won me back in half an hour, honestly.
I think it's opposed to The Crown. I think like the Game of Thrones verse, whatever it's called, the franchise, I feel like that's something that I could get into for a couple dozen
good.
hours.
So fucking good, man. Like, again, the 8th season is very iffy, but like the universe itself is really good. A couple of last shout outs. Eve Best is fantastic as Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, aka the queen that never was. The guy that plays her husband, Steve Toussaint, is fantastic as Lord Corlys Velaryon, aka the first black man in Game of Thrones, probably.
Is that for real?
It might be, I don't know. But at least he has a family, so now there's a bunch of black people in the show, thank God.
Okay.
Who else do I want to shout out?
All I know is Olivia Cook is in it, and I'm happy about that.
Emma Darcy and Olivia Cook are fantastic in this show. They replaced the two main actresses that were playing the younger version of them until the half point of the show.
Yeah.
And people were like, how the fuck are they going to do that? Because they were so fantastic. They were played by Millie Alcock and Emily Carey. They played like the main queens in the beginning. And then it turned to Olivia Cook and Emma Darcy. And people were like, how the fuck are you going to do anything better than that? And I don't know if they're better, but they're just as good.
Yeah, Olivia Cook's like, she's probably one, again, I haven't seen the show yet, but she's probably like one of the most high profile people in the show.
So good, man. She's so fucking good.
Yeah. If you want to watch a good movie with her that'll make you cry, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is a good one. Of course, she was in Ready Player One, which I think we've all seen, and I love that movie. And Sound of Metal, a lot of good stuff that she's in. So I'm glad she's still everywhere.
Yes. I will do a full spoiler thing for this show when it ends in 2 weeks with our boy Swanka.
He's going to be back from season 2.
Yes, from The Real Movie Critic.
Real Quick Critic.
Real Quick Critic. And so he's coming on to talk about the show later on. And we'll get into crazy spoilers.
So get hyped, Damon fans.
But if you're not watching this show, what the fuck are you doing with your life? Go on HBO Max and watch this show.
By the way, that was a personal jab towards me.
Maybe.
You have to be like, God, what are you watching now?
Okay. So, that was my rant on... not rant. What is
positive
a positive
rant?
rant? Positive rant on House of the Dragon. Which is so refreshing for once. Gal, what are you watching? Are you doing something rant related? Because that's what I see here on my notes.
I'm watching something that's in the universe of a property that's somehow bigger than Game of Thrones, and it's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. So I couldn't miss this because I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I even would defend the Hobbit movies. I think they're not perfect, but they're I really enjoy them still, and I've watched them a couple times. So like I knew I was going to love the world building of this. I'm a little bit behind because I know it's already ended. I'm only 3 episodes in and I'm enjoying it so far. I don't have as much good to say as I do House of the Dragon because I feel like the show is still getting its groove. What I do really like so far is mostly the visuals because they do a really good job of emulating the look of the Peter Jackson movies and how to make it feel epic, but like justify the slow introduction into it.
What the fuck's it about? Because I watched the trailers and I don't know.
It's so far, it's if you know Galadriel from the Lord of the Rings movies, she's the main character.
Is she Evangeline Lilly? No.
No, that's Tauriel.
I haven't watched those movies in so long.
Galadriel is played by the great Cate Blanchett.
Oh, Cate Blanchett, okay.
And so it's a really hard task to follow someone like her. And Morfydd Clark is playing the young version of her. Morfydd Clark is how you pronounce it, because I think her name is Welsh. And she's so far the best part. I saw her before this in a movie called Saint Maud, and she plays a fucking psychopath in that movie. So I really had to shake that off.
Oh,
but
I think I watched that too.
But she's really like, she's pretty like badass and very human in this movie. Elrond is also cool. Again, you have to play someone who Hugo Weaving played in the Lord of the Rings movies. And so that's a bit of a challenge. But so far what they're doing with him is good. Where I think it's still finding its groove is in the subplots. Again, it's ended, and I think a lot of people who are big Tolkien fans have finished it. But I'm only 3 episodes in, so this is what I've gotten out of it. It's still like a very slow build because it's only 3 episodes into. I think they're going to go on for a lot of seasons with the prequels. So what it's mostly about is like Galadriel believes that Sauron is not actually defeated, but he's come back. And, you know, we all know that he's indeed back. And
he's going to be played by Walter White in season 2.
That's what we saw. Apparently, I haven't even finished this season, but someone said from the crew of the show said that Sauron's going to be like Walter White in season 2. So
Hollywood needs to be stopped.
So yeah, and so far the episodes have been directed by J.A. Bayona.
Really?
Who directed The Impossible, A Monster Calls, and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
AKA my favorite Jurassic World movie that everyone hates.
Yeah. So far where I think the show could be a little bit better is some of the side characters. And where it's like, there's this really weird subplot where there's these 2 Hobbit kids and they find like this dude who fell from the sky and they're trying to hide him from the rest of the Hobbit community. I don't even know if they're hobbits or humans or something, but they're called Harfoots, I think. But whatever. So that's a bit of a weird subplot. And so far I don't think there's like as much of a moving conflict as there will be by the end of this season. And I think sort of like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, what they're going for here is like a epic, like multiple season wide storyline that's really going to take its time. But so far, I do think the visuals and the production design are something really amazing for a small screen show. Nice. It's apparently the most expensive show of all time right now.
Got that Jeff Bezos money.
Exactly. And so it feels very much like the things that Peter Jackson did. But where I'm hoping to see it improve a little bit is when you already start The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, for example, even though it's really slow with the world building, I felt like at that point there was already more soul to it. Like you see Frodo and Sam hanging out, you see like Gandalf, like he's somehow making jokes, or Aragorn, like you see all the sides of him. So far, I think it needs to get into the groove more of the soul of the characters. Yeah. And I've only felt that so far with Galadriel, who, again, I think she's done a really good job, the actress. But again, I'm only 3 episodes in, so let's see where it goes from here.
Awesome. I'll definitely get into it. I think my reasoning not to getting into it is similar to yours with Game of Thrones. I haven't watched The Lord of the Rings in like years. So I want to rewatch that before I watch the show. I'll
gladly rewatch the Lord of the Rings movies with you.
Great.
But let's keep it theatrical because it's already 3+ hours each.
I might watch the director's version by myself because like
extended.
I never watched those, so like I might watch it.
I think I've seen Fellowship extended, and then I've watched all the big clips from Return of the King extended because they cut out some big like action set pieces, even though it's already a 3-hour 20-minute movie. So I know most of the Tolkien fans think the extended versions are better, but when it comes to rewatches, like, come on, it's already 3 hours.
But like, because I haven't watched it in like 10 plus years, I think for me it's gonna feel like I'm watching it again. Like I'm watching it for the first time. So that's why I want to watch the bigger versions.
Yeah. Just whichever version's easier to find on Netflix or whatever, that's what I'll go with. Or HBO Max.
I think it's on HBO Max. Okay.
Including extended?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. And okay, so let's talk about She-Hulk, shall we?
She-Hulk Attorney at Law. The show that has taken the world by storm these last couple weeks.
In the worst way possible. It has brought out the worst side of every person imaginable. So, quick thoughts. Quick information on She-Hulk. Stars Tatiana Maslany as the titular character, and the showrunners Jessica Gao from Rick and Morty. It also stars Ginger Gonzaga, Jamila Jamil, Renée Elise Goldsberry, Mark Ruffalo, Tim Roth, Josh Segarra, and Benedict Wong.
Benedict
Wong. That was
Sorry,
horrible.
Benedict.
Sorry, Benedict. To be fair, Gal only wrote Wong here. He didn't write the full name, so that's on him.
I still think it's so perfect that they got an actor named Wong to play Wong.
And he is Wong. Okay, maybe I'll start with what I did like about the show. I liked Tatiana Maslany.
She's great.
She is She-Hulk. She is the character from the comics.
She was like a real person that you may want to hang out with.
I love the first 2 episodes. I love Mark Ruffalo in it. I love Tim Roth in it.
Everything they did with Tim Roth was great, and it wasn't the way I expected. It was the complete opposite.
Wasn't that great,
but I enjoyed it. Like most of the things that they did with him.
The cast
like
here is
especially
really good.
his acting.
Josh Segarra is fantastic, even though it's kind of weird for me to see him playing a really sweet guy after seeing him play one of the worst psychopaths in comic book history.
He's like one of the only good men in this show.
Exactly, which is so weird to me because I'm used to him being the worst man in a different show.
For me, the highlight was Ginger Gonzaga, though.
She's great.
She was just so funny, and she was like a mood. Like, she doesn't give a shit. And she just says whatever's on her mind, even if it's like, even if she's like bullshitting whatever, she like is gonna offend someone or has some crazy idea. I enjoyed her a lot.
The other things that I enjoyed, spoiler related, we'll get to that in the end of the show. Everything else, not a fan.
Look, I'm mixed on it. Some people are trashing it. I thought it was okay. Like, it's fine. But it did leave me at the end with a very, like, meh feeling. It felt like watching, like, a mid-tier action comedy show that entertained. And I actually laughed quite a bit. But it does get a little frustrating in terms of where the potential could have gone.
And, like, I watch it week to week, and Gal binges it. That's basically how we do it here. And week to week, I can tell you, some weeks were really rough. Like, the weeks in the middle between the 2nd episode and the 8th were all really rough to get through. Because, like, it just seemed like it was getting, like, everyone hates Jennifer Walters, like, but everyone loves She-Hulk. But, like, it's so bad, like, even her friends kind of hate her, like, so it's just a bummer of a show. Like, you're just watching it and you're like, oh, this show is such a bummer. And that's basically how I felt throughout, like, the middle part of the show. I was just getting bummed out. And, like, that wedding episode in particular, I was like, I am not here for it. I was so done.
Damn. Well,
yeah.
I think this movie was a little too bent on like doing the sitcom nature, which I think they were just trying to do it to make a point. Because with a lot of these, like Kevin Feige is like, oh, it's a crime thriller, but in the MCU, or oh, this one's a legal comedy, but in the MCU. And I think they just they went so much into the sitcom nature just so that they could feel like other shows.
They didn't go enough into the legal comedy part of it, which I didn't understand.
Here's the thing. It's just like, I feel like they could have at least just had a villain that goes through all the episodes, because it was very insistent on just being like standalone episodes.
Exactly. And it was like a villain that goes throughout the episode, and also that she has a court battle with throughout the show, like they used to do with Daredevil. That was amazing.
Yeah.
When like the words collide, right? Like she's fighting them as She-Hulk in the streets, and like she's having to like present like arguments and shit in court, which is a damn bummer that they didn't do.
It's also a bit of a structural mess because there's so many things that like you think are going to be paid off more, or the opposite, where it's like there's a character who's funny for one joke or one scene, and then they go on for the whole episode. Like there's a guy who commits suicide for legal reasons so he could like get out of marriages or get money or stuff, and then he heals every time he kills himself. That's funny for one scene, but they do it for the whole episode just so that they can seem like a legal sitcom. Or like, and on the opposite side, for example, Jamila Jamil seems like she's having so much fun, and
but
she's not
20
utilized.
minutes of the show.
Yeah, they could have used her a lot more as like her rival, or as like this really vain influencer woman. Renee Elise Goldsberry, also not in it that much, probably one of the most talented people in the show, and she doesn't do as much as I hoped. But
there's been a lot of rumors that this show has been restructured after it was filmed, and like then they did reshoots to like adapt to that because of a character that we're gonna talk about in the spoilers section. Like he wasn't supposed to be in it until like pretty late in the game or something like that. Either way, it's a mess. Let's face it.
It's a mess.
The last episode of the show, I get it that they use it in like kind of like a cute fourfold breaking way, but that still doesn't excuse the mess that this show is.
It's still, the idea behind it was sweet, and at first I was on board, but by the time it ended, it just left me feeling so
Yeah.
And like,
let's get into
even
spoilers, shall we?
Yeah.
So spoilers alert.
Charlie fucking Cox.
Charlie fucking Cox is so fucking good.
That whole episode was fire.
Episode 8 is the best episode of the show, right? We both agree on that.
I guess, yeah. Why not? Yeah, it is.
For me, it's an honest 10 out of 10 episode. I love that episode.
Except for, I was going to say, but when saying, not the Illuminati, what are they called? Intelligentsia. As soon as they come in and they're like the main villains all along, I was like, fuck this. But
no, I like the ending when she's like, it's so cringy, but like in a horrible way when you see the basically a sex tape of her.
No,
and
but
then,
I mean like the fact that was the main
fucking loses it. It's so good.
Like the fact that was the main conflict, though. That's what I mean. But honestly, like if I was her, I would have understood why she punched that thing, because you don't want the sex tape going on for so long in front of other people.
Yeah.
So she's like, she should have just been like, well, I guess that's what she did. Like, she should have just been like, hey guys, I'm gonna like stop this because this is illegal invasion of privacy.
When the budget of this show really shows, because at this point, she should have fucking hulked out. She should have destroyed the TV and then destroyed everything, because she finally actually lost it. So like she should have destroyed everything and had to be like contained by police or something. Not that like, oh, I'm sorry kind of thing that like, I guess I'm arrested now.
When we're talking about budget, I've also been a little bit lenient sometimes. Like, I didn't mind most of CGI in the last couple MCU installments. The She-Hulk CGI was pretty off-putting.
In the middle episodes, in the first two and in the final two, it was good in my opinion.
I don't know. It felt weird for me the whole time, and it had a similar effect watching the trailer for this. Maybe they improved it a little bit. At times you get used to it, but I didn't
feel it that much. In the middle, I did feel it, especially in the wedding episode. Like the CGI was trash in that episode. Not blaming the CGI artists. I'm sure they did not have enough time to do this.
It's apparently the complaints with Marvel VFX artists.
Yeah. So spoiler-wise, also the last episode, I kind of liked where they were going for, but then they didn't do anything with it. Like when she started changing everything, I thought it was really interesting. I was like, "Oh, nice! You're gonna make your show good now." But she didn't. She just
skips another climax.
Shit. She skips everything, and then we're done. And then like Hulkling shows up, or I guess Scar, and he looks awful for some reason.
That was so funny. Where he just comes, he's like, "This is my son," and it just cuts away. Here's what I will
He
say.
looks so fucking good in the comics, and he looks awful in this show.
Here's what I will say. I like that Kevin Feige is willing to not take himself that seriously, where he's like, I'm an AI or whatever. Why don't we talk more about Daredevil? Wong. Everything with Wong was good.
Yeah.
Like, he has this running joke where he just wants to get back to Kamartaj and watch The Sopranos. And I thought that
which
was
is
funny.
fair enough.
And he has a side chick at the end.
Which is funny.
Then Madison. Which was like also a funny joke. It's like a Valley girl.
We're talking about Charlie Cox, and I was scared because Kingpin was kind of done dirty on Hawkeye. I thought he was like a big joke, basically.
I actually didn't mind it, but it's a different discussion.
A big indestructible joke, instead of like the psychopath that we saw on Netflix. Especially now that I'm rewatching Daredevil, I was like, really? I don't know. Like I like he was so much more menacing in on Netflix, and I thought they were gonna do something similar to Daredevil, but he leaps off his show. Like, it's the same guy, 100%, and every time he's on screen, I'm crushing on him.
I was so excited,
and I'm like, dude, you bang She-Hulk, you do whatever the fuck you want, my man.
Honestly, for me, like, him showing up again, I know it's two different situations, but it was at the level of like seeing the past Spider-Man pull up in No Way Home and like interact with the current MCU.
I get that, but like, it wasn't the same for me just because the show was so shit. Like, and No
Way Home is way better than this.
Fantastic show, fantastic movie.
We're at the same place there, but also the romance, I did not expect that between them, and it worked.
It works because they're both like very, I guess,
they're both
friendly.
Cute and in their 30s.
They're both very friendly in the comics. They fuck everything, basically. So it is very comics accurate that they would bone, because they bone everything. But yeah, I'm way more excited to Daredevil Born Again now than I was before.
That's our verdict.
And I hope like She-Hulk appears in that. And they have like at least one special episode with her. There's 18 episodes, they can fit her in.
Yeah,
and this is all leading into Captain America New World Order, with like all the Hulks and stuff, like with the leader and all that.
Leader, yeah.
So
my man Tim Blake Nelson.
And probably Harrison Ford, which is insane.
Never thought I'd be saying that.
And yeah, I'm very excited about that. And
so verdict for me is definitely worst MCU show. I'd say give it a go, like start it and see what you think. But it's not one that you have to finish. Maybe if you really can't stand it, skip to episode 8.
Maybe watch episode 1, 2, 8, and 9 and you'll be fine. Just to understand the MCU at large. And like...
I think I had good laughs somewhere in every episode. But as a whole, they're not must-watches.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it. I'm excited to see She-Hulk again in the MCU. She's supposed to be in
At least it's a good character, yeah.
Yeah, she's supposed to be in the Avengers films now.
As well as 90 other people.
Yeah, and maybe she's going to be also in Captain America, so let's see if her CGI improves.
So it's a good TV episode.
Yeah.
I will
take us out.
Maybe watch House of the Dragon now. I don't know about The Crown. I'll probably watch House of the Dragon. Power.
Maybe Pets.
We're not as excited as we should be about each other's face. Nope. But I do want to watch House of the Dragon. I'll give you that. And we will give you much more exciting content soon. More reviews, guests as well within season 3. I'm excited as hell.
Yeah. I'm the most excited I was for Wakanda Forever episode coming in the end of November. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
See ya.